But oh, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to OfficeHours.fm, episode number we don't know because this is going to be a pre-recorded show. But I'm delighted to be here with Brian and Jennifer Bourn today, the WordPress power couple. How are y'all doing?
Great.
Good. It's our last day of summer.
Woo, like the kids are starting school on
Tomorrow.
Who starts on a Tuesday? I mean, I guess the benefit is you don't have a full week.
I
think
don't
they do a teacher in-service day on the Monday to get everything back to it, but we've had like the greatest summer ever, so we don't want it to end. Just 2 more weeks would be great, but it's got to end sometime.
So you guys have a really fantastic sense of that work-life balance, if that phrase, I mean, maybe that phrase has been overused, but you've got 2 kids and you make time to vacation frequently, and I love that. Is that something that y'all have always, like, was a priority from day one, so you've always managed to make it happen, or was that something you've had to kind of work into your work life?
You know, it's definitely something that's been evolved. One thing to remember, like I think we talked about this, not on a podcast or anything, but we just clocked 10 years. So in the beginning, and Jennifer can speak more to that, it was definitely not as quote-unquote balanced as people see now. It took a long time and a lot of hard work and a lot of long hours to get to where we are now.
Yeah, the first several years we were in business, I probably worked like 16 to 18-hour days, 7 days a week for years, and almost never took time off. And when I did, I was freaked out, and I was guilty, and I was stressed out, and I was crabby, and I wasn't super enjoyable to be around. But, you know, we've always looked at it as a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. If we put in the work now, we'll be able to reap the benefits when the kids are old enough to actually play with and enjoy, and that's what we're doing now.
And
I love it.
And we still have weeks where we have, 50-hour, 60-hour weeks. We call them sprints, where it's 3 to 4, maybe even 5 weeks straight, where we don't, pop our heads up much. You don't see us much on social. We don't even leave the house. We're just heads down, hard work, because we know we plan that time in advance that we're going to be gone for a week. And so it creates this sense of urgency for ourselves and for our clients to get projects done and to manage ourselves and our workflow to accommodate that.
I think the key word there is manage. Well, and maybe planning to go along with that. That you're planning when you're going to take those vacations, and then planning to get your homework done, as it were, before then.
Yeah. Well, we put all of our vacations for the year on the calendar in December, and we just commit. These are the vacations we're taking. This is when we're going to be gone. We don't always know what we're doing, but we know this is the week. These are the times we're going to be gone. And if something comes up, well, then we can't go because we've committed to be on vacation or to do something else. But we do put them all on the calendar in December, so there's no, otherwise time gets away from you, and then all of a sudden it's been months and you haven't gone and done anything.
And if anybody's curious, it's that calendar that you see behind Jennifer's head in the video there.
Oh, yeah.
That's a tiny calendar. I can't really stalk it from here to see
It's
upcoming trip.
It's like 3.5 by 4.5 feet, but it lives up there and maps out all of our stuff.
Awesome. Well, did y'all see the post by Chris Lima recently? He was talking on the subject of work-life balance, or maybe the myth of work-life balance. He pointed out something that I thought was so great. And when I look at you guys and I think, oh man, the Bourns, like they got it going on. They've got all their ducks in a row. They're managing this family time. They've all of these things that are in place. But the reality is, you have been doing this for 10 years. And somebody that's at the very beginning of their journey can't look at what you're doing and say, well, dang, I wish I had that. I mean, I guess they can in the sense that can be what they aspire to.
Absolutely.
I think the same WP Tavern post that inspired that post from Chris, I wrote a really long comment on that post, detailing kind of our thoughts on that same topic. But the idea is that for a long time, I had to work, or it's like if I didn't work, I didn't get paid. So just taking one weekend day off at first was a really big deal. And then we took the whole weekend off. It was all weekends. We didn't work weekends. And then it was, okay, let's do a 3-day weekend. Oh my gosh! And then it was a 4-day weekend. And when we got to 5 days, that was huge. And we stayed at just a 5-day trip for a few years. That was a really big deal to do 5 days at a time. And then now we've stretched it out to where it's usually like, 8 to 10 days. But it was a big deal to just, we did it little over the years, and now we're at the point where we, just take lots.
I like it. I do kind of, and going to get personal with you guys, but y'all are friends, so it's okay. Maybe other people are listening in on this conversation. But, I feel like my family is in this stage right now. My husband and I, we're kind of making hay while the sun shines. We're, our careers are going well. You want to keep doing while there's while the sun's shining, so to speak. But the other part of me feels like, wow, we are in it's only going downhill from here. I just turned 40. He's 45. Like, we're in our healthiest years. And so all the things like, what are we building up to? Is it going to be 60, retirement age before we start enjoying the hard work and the effort? So that
was Brian's problem forever. Brian had that problem of he never lived for today. It was always planning for the future. Our family was like that forever. And then, you can say why that shifted.
Well, yeah, I don't talk about it personally, but I think it was 3 or 4 years ago I was diagnosed with gallbladder cancer. And it was one of those, you have greater odds of getting struck by lightning and winning the lottery on the same day than getting gallbladder cancer. It's extremely rare and almost impossible to get as a young white male in North America. It just doesn't happen. So, and it happened to be, everything was resolved, everything, whatever, but it took several years of tests, took surgery, lab work, all kinds of careful monitoring. But that definitely changed the way that I look at everything. And because there is no guarantee there is even going to be a tomorrow. So you don't want to be completely reckless and just spend your bank account to zero every week. But at the same time, if you don't try to balance it out with a little fun, you may not live to see that day. Now, don't get me wrong. We still aggressively save for 401k and retirement with the idea that I don't want to always work forever. I may not necessarily want to write code my entire life, but I am definitely going to have a lot of fun along the way.
Man, great wisdom there, and thank you for sharing that. And even though it's not live now, at some point it will be. So you've just shared with the world, unless we go back and rewind. Well, me too in that case. Okay, so Cabo Press is on the horizon, and oh my gosh, I'm so excited. For my listeners that are not familiar with Cabo Press, it's now a second annual trip hosted by Chris Lema and some others, Syed, Corey from iThemes, some amazing
Jason Cohen, WP Engine.
Yeah, these just kind of heroes of the WordPress community, or pillars, and it's a small, limited number of people. You had to apply to get in, and it's basically a 4 day trip where it's sort of mastermind style, digging into getting down into the nitty gritty of where things are, and challenging us in our businesses. So I'm so looking forward to that. So by the time this airs, it's possible that we are actually in Cabo Press together.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
That does sound very nice. That's a carrot on the end of the stick right there.
We'll be drinking on the beach while y'all are listening.
And we'll be raising one to you, Office Hours FM listeners.
Cheers.
So I know what I'm kind of looking forward to for Cabo Press, but for you guys, are you looking forward to it as a vacation, or as a chance to be stretched business-wise, or both?
I'm definitely looking at it for both. For us, like we talked about earlier, it's been 10 years, and it's been a great 10 years, and we've reached a point where we're very happy with where we are, but like any entrepreneur, you're always driven to what's next. And that's something that we've kind of struggled with a little bit, is figuring out what's next. Jen and I have a really great system, working with our clients. We love our customers, They allow us the freedom to do what we want, and they trust us to build great things for them. But we're also interested in where do we go in 5 years, for 10 years? What does that look like? And I'm hoping to help gain some clarity of where to help move our company in that direction. And obviously, I've never been to Mexico, so I'm looking forward to the vacation aspect side of it too.
I hope your passport is ready.
I'd never had a passport until this trip motivated me to get one, so now I have one.
Excellent. I had a little panic attack the other day that my passport might be expired, and that it was too close. The window was too close for me to get a new one, but we're all good. So I will be there.
Nice.
Jennifer, how about you?
You know, so much time is spent working in your business, especially when you're in client services and things like that, that you're constantly working on everybody else's stuff. And you talk about your own business and things like that in your own environment or, you know, wherever, but there's a lot to be said for getting away from your day-to-day, away from the distractions in a totally different environment with people with a totally different perspective to work on your business and to actually kind of talk about what's going well, what you can improve upon, you know, where you want to make shifts, where you want to go, and get kind of out of that day-to-day and just spend core time focused on the business itself. And I'm excited about that. And the kids are coming, so that'll be fun too. We're looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, if there's any, you know, loud shenanigans at night, I'll know it's coming from your kids.
They'll be ordering room service at 2 a.m.
Loud shenanigans. Isn't Rebecca going? So I'm assuming it's going to be you and Rebecca where the shenanigans will be headquartered.
Your room may be louder.
I like that. Shenanigans are headquartered and possibly in, well, we will speak about that. Jennifer, I identify exactly with what you said, that it's nice to be able to see other people, what other people's perspectives are, because I always kind of joke, like I prefer solving other people's problems than my own, but it's so much simpler when you don't have you're not tied emotionally or in any possible way to something, and you can just look at it and make some really clear observations.
Well, and sometimes it's hearing other people talk about their business. You're not even talking about your business. You're looking at other people's, and that one thing will click, like, oh, wait a second. That might apply to what I'm doing. So, I always learn a ton listening to other people talk about what they're doing in their businesses, even if it's totally not what we're doing. There's little bits and pieces that I think you can glean from all kinds of things.
Indeed. And when you're away from the daily grind, you have the mental space, the creative space to let those ideas kind of swim around in your head with a margarita.
With a margarita.
With the margarita. All right. So, well, hopefully, maybe you guys will do a review blog post at the end of Cabo Press, and I hope to do the same. Okay. So, talking about your business or hearing other people talk about their business, you were Jennifer and Brian. Did you go to Prestige Conf?
No, I stayed home. I went to the one in Las Vegas, but I did not go to the recent one in Minneapolis.
Okay.
He only goes to the ones where I don't speak.
No, it's a more a matter of logistics and leaning on grandma to watch the kids too much.
Hey, if you guys need to shoot it and work it out, give you a minute.
Oh, no.
You can have a little Jerry Springer moments on Office Hours FM to liven it up for you.
Yeah, I think it could boost ratings. We could shoot this one through the roof. So, Jennifer, you did something really, well, actually, sorry, first, can you describe, I have not been to a Prestige conference, so can you kind of give the quick rundown for someone who's not familiar?
Prestige conference is like all the best parts of the WordPress business track all in one event. So there isn't a session that somebody's pulling up code, or there's no developer talk, there's no technical stuff. It's business challenges and lessons and interviews, and it's people sharing their journey and their story and how they overcame obstacles, or how they came through certain aspects of their business, or what they learned in different parts of their business. So it's all focused around helping those who are freelancing in an agency or working, in the industry for someone else, glean insights on how to elevate their career and their business and just do business better.
That should be the 30-second intro clip for Prestige. I'm going to get in touch with Kiko and see if he can whip that up.
So I got a 30-second clip to sell you.
It's worth the big bucks. But you did something really interesting, and not having been, I don't know, maybe this isn't new for Prestige Conf, but you did a hands-on branding workshop. So the hands-on part, that's super cool, because so many times at conferences you go and you're just, listening and absorbing, trying to take it all in, but, some of the detail gets lost because you're not having that experiential piece.
Yeah.
Can you kind of describe what your session was and how that went?
So my session was a 2-hour block of time that kicked off Sunday. And it was called Clarity Breeds Opportunity. So it was focused on getting really, really clear on what your brand is, the reputation that you want to build in the market and what you want to become known for. And then going through some exercises in how to communicate that with others really clearly, so they know exactly who you serve, what you do, why you're a great choice, how you're different from other people, so they can refer more business to you. Because people refer business to people they know exactly what they do. If they're at all confused about what you're great at, they're not going to refer business to you. And the same thing with clients who are trying to make a decision whether or not they're going to give you money. The more clear they are that you're the best choice, the more likely it is that they're going to pay you. So we focused on walking the audience through exercises that help them flush out some of those communication tools so they could leave with, benefit and risk statements that they could use in their sales copy or on sales pages or in marketing, tools or on their website. They could help write a marketing message, things like that, that when they're out talking about their business, they can talk about it really clearly and communicate everything that somebody else needs to make a decision on whether or not they should give you their money.
I need your workshop.
Prestige Conference is selling access to all of those videos. So
Are they?
You can purchase access to all of the videos.
Hey, you know what? Maybe I can do a trade for that 30-second spot for access to your session.
Oh, well, the nice thing is, so all attendees get 6 months of access to all of the sessions by video at no extra charge. So they can go back and re-watch any of the ones that they might have missed, or they wanted to take extra notes, or sometimes it's nice just to be present and not take notes the whole time and then go back and watch it again to take some notes and things. So I like that aspect. But when we were kind of brainstorming what to do for this event, I was on the call with Kiko and Josh, and we were talking about that exact thing. You go to conferences, people spend all this time going to WordCamps and conferences, and you sit in these sessions and you take all these notes and you get all these ideas, and you go back to your office and you have client work and phone calls and emails come in, and then all of a sudden weeks have gone by and you've taken no action. So what can we do to help people actually leave with stuff done and progress made?
That is so cool. Okay, so did you get much feedback kind of in the moment or after the session from attendees?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people that were there live shared some of the things that they were writing, their benefit risk statements, marketing messages, things like that. So when we completed an exercise, they shared what they wrote. And then instead of a Q&A at the end, because it was hands-on, we just did Q&A through the whole thing. So people who were on the live stream submitted questions, and they were asked
She's
throughout.
being modest, Carrie. She had like 100 and something Twitter mentions and follow-up tweets at her, and she's being modest.
Thank you, Brian. You just chip right in with the truth.
It was a successful session.
Okay, well, if I buy you a margarita in Mexico, maybe we can work through a little workshop. Floating in the
Sure
pool.
thing. That tequila.
Oh yes, we will keep you from tequila. So if you're tuning in to Office Hours, do not buy Jen Bourn shots of tequila. bad things happen. I'm just kidding. Bad things don't happen.
Shut up.
Tequila is in your get ignore file.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we're on the conference talk for a second, but the first time I met you, I think it was at WordCamp San Francisco a couple years ago, or met you in person, and was it your first WordCamp?
Yeah, 2013 WordCamp San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah,
Brian had gone to several without me. And because I always went to entrepreneurial events and more online business-focused events, because that's where the majority of all of our clients were coming from at the time. So I would go to those, and then Brian would go to WordCamps, and we never went to stuff together because Brian's mom hadn't retired yet. My parents had other stuff going on, and we didn't have the babysitting situation all shored up. But then kind of in 2013, that perfect storm happened. Like, my parents got all their stuff all sorted out, and Brian's mom retired, and then all of a sudden we had 2 people that could watch the kids for us anytime, and we could travel together. You know, so I went to WordCamp, and I was like, we're only going to go to these.
Really? Okay, so you're not doing the other.
I go to some other ones, but I'm much more picky and choosy now than I used to be. It's got to really be something amazing.
Okay, because
I'd rather be on vacation.
Well, and sometimes WordCamps are like vacations because
that is true.
Friends are there. But there's Prestige Conf. There's which one we went to? Pressnomics.
Mm-hmm.
These other conferences kind of coming out of the unconferences, which I don't even know why they're called that, but conferences full of WordPress people, but it's not a WordCamp. Are we too much just going and hanging out with ourselves?
Yes, totally. I mean, let's be honest. You'd go to a WordCamp. It's not like you go to a WordCamp and you're networking and selling and getting clients. Maybe some people are, but most people, that's not what you're doing. You're talking to other people in the industry that they're probably never going to be a client. Yeah, there's conversations and things that go on to lead to long-term partnerships and, subcontractor relationships or potential hires. They're really great for building in-industry relationships. But if you're going to invest money to go to an event and you want to get clients out of it, then you also need to spend some time going to other things.
That's where I was going, and you knocked that softball out of the park. So
you got to go where your clients are.
I went to the Podcast Movement conference here recently. It was here in my hometown, and
Nice.
I wasn't intending. I was going to learn because it's wanted to get my podcast on. I wasn't going with the intent of doing business or trying to find clients or whatever. But one of the fellows that's in my mastermind, Kirk Bowman, he was like, you realize you're going to a place where almost everybody knows how to use WordPress or what WordPress is, or their sites are on WordPress, but they're not WordCamp people. They're your potential clients. And yeah, it was just kind of a mind shift. So, I mean, not like I went into sales mode or whatnot, but it was interesting to network amongst people that they could actually hire me or might want to hire me.
What you do.
Yes. What a concept.
You're like, oh, I bring business cards to this event. Huh. Interesting.
I didn't have business cards.
We stopped carrying them.
I don't carry them anymore either. And my philosophy is I will get your card, and if I want to follow up with you, I will definitely follow up with you. I'd rather take the...
Otherwise, it's just spam. People want to get your card, and they spam you, or you get all these inquiries that they're not serious. I found that, if somebody really wants to get in touch with us, it's easy to find us online. So if you're serious and you're seriously interested in working with us, you will find us or we will find you.
That didn't sound scary at all. We will find you.
We will find you. We will track you down.
That could be your new tagline, Bourn Creative, we will find you.
Brian's like, Jen, shut up.
Yeah. Move along. Next topic.
This is all get the hip chat. Stop talking.
All right. Brian, did you have anything to chime in on the topics of conferences and?
No, I think even as people who design or develop and love WordCamps as much as I do and go to them, it's important to go to other meetups that in your area that aren't just your WordPress meetup. Like there's web developer meetups, there are other developer conferences. Like there's the List Apart series of conferences that they do, the Front End Conf. There's tons of them that are, because at the end of the day, WordPress is an engine that's going to output HTML, and you still JavaScript, jQuery, HTML, CSS all applies in those conferences where you become better at those basic web technologies will always make you a better WordPress developer in general. So getting away from being heavily dependent on some of the WordPress stuff will make you better. So I think it's important to go to the technical conferences as well as the business conference stuff outside of the WordPress specific.
Well said. Well, since you mentioned developer topics, let's get down to one, because you're one of the best Genesis developers out there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, it's a true story, and one of the things I've always admired about you is how highly systematized, and this applies to your business in general, but it also certainly carries over to the way you approach code. So I know the folks who listen, this is one of the questions they're always curious about are developer workflows and hearing how other developers approach the process, sort of from that from start to finish, and not the project management side, but just the technical side.
Sure. So it's a little long-winded, so definitely interrupt me or ask questions or whatever. So when we design, we started at design, which is important. Jen, with nearly all of our customers, we do wireframing. She does it in Illustrator, and then we'll design on top of that. Sometimes Photoshop. So the mock-ups that I get will be Photoshop or Illustrator, and they're desktop only. We don't do mock-ups for responsive design. So when I get those, we do usually like a kickoff meeting, where we're obviously talking and communicating during the design process, but we also have a brief meeting to talk about, okay, this is what I interpret this as, let's make sure, let's talk about it. I tend to go through the mock-up. Sometimes there's inconsistencies in a font style or a color, because a client decides, oh, I want a different color green, but it doesn't necessarily transfer over to all the artboards or Photoshop layers. So we make a consistent sheet, number one, that has my set colors, hex codes, font stack, and then I never deviate that from. I never ever pick them again from the Adobe files. Then kind of outline, start thinking about it mentally how I'm going to approach the project. When it gets down to actual development and creating the child theme folder, create the folder, and I start with the PHP functions file first, and I do everything in the globals there. Part of it, I get unregistered Genesis options, get rid of the widgets, get rid of the layouts, all the kind of standard stuff that I know that particular theme is not going to use. And most of these are all snippets that I've used dozens of times, and there's just using them over and over and over again. Some of it's copy-paste, some of it I've just memorized them, and I just type them out because it's gotten faster. I tend to not use a lot of conditionals in my themes. I will use the template hierarchy, that if I'm going to do something on the single post template, I'll create a single.php file with the Genesis hook at the end and maybe 5 or 6 lines of code to execute on that file instead, and it keeps the functions file a lot leaner.
Got a question for you there. So obviously it keeps the functions file smaller, like you said, but is there any performance benefit to getting rid of some of those conditionals and creating a template instead?
No. I mean, it's all just the PHP processing. If it is, it's going to be super minuscule. And all of our clients, we have them host on WP Engine, and most of the time with a content delivery network, so everything's cached. The only time you might notice a small performance difference on any site is when you're logged in and you're administering the site as a WordPress admin. And there's still things you can do to even speed up the logged in state of WordPress. But I've found no noticeable difference in that style.
Interesting. Okay, so 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Right, and I find that it just makes everything cleaner. And even if and now this is much later on, but when you're talking about templating, even in page templates, I don't put them in the root anymore of the theme folder. I create a folder called page templates. WordPress, I think as of 4.1 or 2, I forget which version, maybe it's 4.0, they will look for page templates one level higher. So you can actually keep your custom page templates in its own folder to help keep that a little leaner and more organized. But so I'll go through, back to kind of the process, go through the functions file and get everything kind of squared away, and then the default templates, things like the single.php, the archive.php, any of those, and then I will do some very, very rough initial CSS with maybe just the body font stack and add the screenshot, favicon, the basic theme files, and then I get it in the browser as fast as possible. I use desktop server for local development, and I work through getting what I call the defaults, what you see with no custom templates. So you're in Genesis, the content sidebar, and then a full width layout. I unregister all the other layouts. We don't use any of those things. So header, navigation, footer, sidebar, blog archives, category archives, single blog view, and then we'll do usually a check-in, a design check-in with Jen. She will look at font sizing, margins, paddings, make sure everything looks good. And often we're obviously communicating back and forth for inconsistencies, and I myself will often make design changes during the process just because some things don't always translate perfectly well from an Adobe file into the browser, and some things, they just look different in the web, in our browser. So once we have what I call the default sign-off done and everything looks great, then I'll move on to custom templates, and this will get into custom page templates, and I lump in custom post types and custom post type archives in with that. And then we kind of do the same thing, get into another design check-in, any bug tweaks, kind of cross-browser, everything looks great. Then I'll go into responsive design, and then work through the responsive design, and then get into one more round of browser testing, and then I'll actually get devices out. Go steal my son's iPad, his old iPhone, check across everything I can get my hands on, and double check the site.
Okay, so I love the detail there. Thank you. So you're developing by yourself at this point? Are you still throwing it under version control, or you just going with it?
No, I don't use version control. It's one of those long list of my things, internals to do to get set up. No, I just do it all on my local machine, and then I use WPDB Migrate Pro to push and pull everything back and forth from my machine up to our development server, where we stage all of our client sites for them to review.
Nice. Okay.
But it's definitely getting up some form of version control and better deployment is definitely on my list of to-dos.
Funny, I have a webinar series you might be interested in. No, I just learned something new, and that is WordPress will look a directory higher for page.
Yeah, so I look at, like, on our recent client project we did, we ended up with 5 custom page templates above beyond. So I put those 5 templates in a folder, and it just, when you're looking at the project source files, it just cleans it up, and then when you're working on a custom page template, you know exactly where to go get it. It's in that one folder, and it just helps maintain it a little easier moving forward. I mean, when you're in the middle of a project, it's easy, but when you go back 3 or 4 months later, and you're trying to go, what the heck did I do on this project again? It's nice to have it as broken apart as much as possible.
Do you document your code pretty thoroughly?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So everything gets a, at least the top of what I'm doing. I kind of do it. I have my own little syntax. What I'll use like the double slash and then the asterisk at the top of the code block that I'm doing. Say what I'm doing. Then internals, I'll actually make myself little notes, and I use like a series of tabs and double slashes to make secondary notes within it. And I'll always write in there what I do. If I lift something off the web, off of Stack Exchange or someone's blog post, and I don't quite 100% grasp what I'm using, I'll actually paste the link into that documentation for a reminder why I did what I did in case I have to revisit or it causes a problem later on. But yeah, those notes have saved me from myself 6 months later going back to a project, and I look at, why the heck did I do it on this time? And then I go, oh yeah, I forgot. Especially when you're doing something that affects multiple templates or things that have multiple class names that you're reusing through a whole site that you have to be very careful about changes you make in the future.
Yes, your future self thanks you for the documentation you do today. Ah, I've learned that one the hard way. Okay, so it sounds like you don't use a starter theme at all. You're creating ground up every time.
Yeah, and oftentimes just to help speed along, because some of the projects, the base Genesis code is the same I use every single time. Like, unregister the triple column layouts. Oftentimes I'll grab one out of the last 3 projects, just duplicate it, and start, change the child folder name, the style header, and just start. Then I'll just select and delete huge chunks of code, and then start rewriting it from there just to save time. But yeah, because of the sites that Jen designs, they're always very, very different from one project to the next. So trying to reuse a starter theme it's more effort than it would be just to go from scratch.
Yeah, but what he doesn't tell you is that over the years he's pretty much memorized every snippet and piece of code that he's written. So when he says, "Oh, I delete all this and start over," he doesn't go and look up snippets and go and look at stuff. It's all from memory. He can just write it all right there. It's crazy ridiculous.
Which is a terrible way to work, by the way. No one should do that. You should have it all stored somewhere nice.
You have all your code snippets and things stored, but you don't need to go look them up, which is my point. I'm trying to be nice.
I love that y'all are both unwilling to brag on yourselves, but you won't hesitate to brag on each other. That's it.
Infotainment. That's the point of the podcast, right?
Oh my. Okay, so
if this were family rated, I would flip you off.
Oh, you can do it in binary 00100. That's a nerd flip off. What IDE are you using?
I code in TextMate, so
okay.
I don't use any autocomplete stuff. I don't use anything of that. I think those tools are great, but I found that, especially when I would co-work with other people and try to help other people, I found that anytime you get too much into copy and pasting or autocompletes, it makes people not actually learn what they're writing, that they're just using the fill-in, and it truly doesn't create that understanding. I always encourage people, if they're trying to develop their skill, stop copying and pasting and type it out. You can obviously copy from the web and use other people's snippets. That's perfectly fine. But instead of directly copying and pasting, type it out. It will start creating that memory, and you'll start understanding it more and more. Especially when you're typing the documentation yourself, and you're maybe changing the function prefixes to whatever you use. You're actually adding say a priority hook or a parameter hook in the function name or the function call, that it creates that memory. So even like CSS, I don't use Sass or any preprocessors. I do it all by hand. I alphabetize it by hand. I do it all by hand, and it creates that memorization and speed. From that level of, maybe it's crazy, I don't know, but it does over time create the ability to do it very fast and fewer mistakes.
I do agree heartily with the typing out by hand and getting familiar with it. I would maybe say that now that you're so familiar with it, you could benefit from, I don't know, some autocomplete tools or preprocessing. To each developer, his or her own.
Don't get me wrong, I do copy and paste a lot on my desktop. I have a folder of the last 5 themes that I've built, and they're all duplicate, and I will on a regular basis go, what did I do on that one again? Open it up, copy paste it into the new one, make 5 or 6 tweaks, and be done with it.
Okay, so and Jennifer, I know we're probably killing you with this particular conversation, but don't worry, your time's coming. Okay, so once you deploy the site, you get it up on the client's server, which you said is WP Engine. Are you ever going back and changing actual core files? And if you do, how are you managing those updates?
So with WP Engine on clients, we have a lot of clients that we have ongoing maintenance retainers and service contracts for, that we work with on a regular basis for maintenance, backups, design changes, whatever it may be. One of the reasons why I love WP Engine is their staging tools that they have, one-click staging, and then they have the deployment options as well, where you can push over just files and not the entire database. So if the client is still blogging and their content is getting out of sync with staging, when you go to deploy, you can just you can select the option not to move any database tables over, and it will just pull over the files.
That is beautiful. Flywheel recently added that same or a very similar staging feature to their plans.
Cool, I did not know that. Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, they're the only two that I know of for sure, or at least that I've personally experimented with. There may be other managed WP hosts out there doing that, but.
Yeah, out of every client we work with, I would say only one out of every quarter isn't hosted on WP Engine. We wholeheartedly support them, and then their tools make us look better than we actually are. So I definitely think they are a great overall solution for most people.
I think that, number one, I'm going to send them a sponsorship invoice for this episode. And number two, I think y'all really do just look good on your own, but it's always nice to have extra tools that help things along. Y'all are hip chatting privately over there. I strongly suspect.
I have it closed.
I turned mine off too. I want full focus for you, Carrie.
Well, I feel very special, and on behalf of everyone that will be eventually listening to this, they will feel special too.
So Brian doesn't know what I'm gonna say. He's nervous.
He's a wild card. Okay, so once that project is done, then what sort of do you guys do? And I know we've talked about this before, but just you can humor me. Do you guys do maintenance plans or retainers, or what's your ongoing relationship with your clients?
Yeah, so we, as an agency, the reality of an agency for long-term viability is you need recurring revenue, and you need to have a relationship with your existing customers. Past customers are your best customers. You may have the highest profit margin because you don't need to sell to them already. They already trust you, you've already sold to them, and you already know what it takes to work with them. You already know if it takes 5 emails to get a response, you can adjust your pricing accordingly. We flat rate all of our projects based on our multiple conversations, and it's a educated guess based on our past experiences, but not every client's a little bit different. So when we do a second project, we know their tendencies, we know their preferences, and those projects tend to have much higher margins. And part of those early conversations is that we're not looking for one-and-done projects and never talk to you again. We're looking to become that agency partner that they need for all creative aspects of their business and not just website maintenance once the project's launched. And so we offer plans, things as simple as just pure maintenance and updates and compatibility testing using staging environments and things like that, all the way up to retainer agreements with set number of hours per month that can be used for design, code, maintenance, strategic consulting, phone video screen sharing, whatever they may need to be able to do that. Like we have one in particular client that has 40 or 50 different authors on a multi-site network that we do training with different members of their editorial staff on a regular basis as part of that monthly retainer, and a lot of it is just keeping them up to date and up to speed with using WordPress and best practices.
Do you find that clients prefer having a set number of hours that they can use for whatever they decide to use it on versus instead of hourly based, like mini project based? So
we have both.
Okay.
We do it both ways. So it depends on the client. Any that are on an ongoing retainership that involves development, all of those are they buy monthly blocks of hours. But we have a lot of clients we have ongoing relationships with that we do a lot of design work for them, and it's all just they send us an email with, hey, we need this stuff done, we do it, we track our hours, and every 2 weeks we bill.
Oop, you froze, but I liked that face that it froze on. That was
But yeah, so those ones, it's, we're lucky to have, we do work with some clients on an ongoing basis where every time they need something new, they want an estimate up front. We provide them an estimate, they approve it, we do the work, we bill. But we're really lucky that we've got a great solid base of design clients that need ongoing design work and they don't ever need an estimate up front. We've been working together long enough now where we just, track all the projects, and every 2 weeks we send them an invoice, and it works great that way too. So we just kind of do what works best for the client and the project and the scope of work that they need.
Well, that's a huge amount of trust and a big compliment to the level of service you guys have consistently knocked out. Brian, I think you summed it up with past clients are your best clients. Well, no, wait, past customers are your best customers. Sorry, I wrote that down. So.
Nice.
So, yeah, they're just, it's like I said, they're easier to sell to. They already know, your tendencies. When you tell them something, it's not a surprise. They know how you work. They're even simple things on their preferred billing methods and how they like to do things. It just makes it so much easier. And then, like most agencies of small partnerships and even most freelancers, your best leads are going to come from referrals from current or past clients. So the more relationships you can maintain with your current clients and past clients, it's going to lead to better future clients and better leads down the road, and not somebody who's Googling web design companies and spamming 800 contact forms on a Saturday.
That person is not enjoying their Saturday.
No. But we've all gotten the emails, and we still continue to get them. And right away when you get them, like, oh, this isn't good. They're just tire kicking. And those are the worst kinds of leads.
Dear sir or madam.
Can you outsource?
How much does a website cost?
Yeah.
$1 million for you. Next. Let me know if you're interested. Okay, well, we've done some good chatting, and we'll wrap up here shortly. But I would like to get the advice of two seasoned pros, one, Brian, with more of a developer focus, and Jim with more of a creative marketing focus. So say I am a freelancer, and I'm so new at freelancing, I'm maybe just on my first or second client. Or maybe I've got a few projects under my belt. But basically, I'm charging little to nothing because that's where I entered the market, just to get work, and so that's where I presently am. And I want to take that next step and get that next level of client, but there's risk, right? There's risk in turning down lower paying jobs to say yes to that, the one that maybe might come. What advice would you guys have to me, if that was me, to encourage me to kind of reach a little higher than I presently am?
I'm going to look at it, I'll let Jen kind of give her point second, but I'm going to look at it on the tactical side of do the work anyways. If you're starting out, do all the work, even if it's a small job. At the end of the day, you have to pay your bills, and the only way mastery comes is by doing something over and over and over again till it becomes repetitive and second nature. Till you can manage the $300 project and you can still make a profit, even if that profit is $50. You still made it, you still kept it in there, and continue to do it. And sometimes when you're growing a business, it means you have to work outside Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. That maybe means you have to work at night or on the weekends. But be prepared when that opportunity comes. So yeah, never stop striving for bigger and better, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with just doing the work and putting in hours. There's no one who's done this for a long time that can say, oh yeah, I only ever worked 35 hours a week for my first 5 years of business. No, no one says that. It's always 40 hours a week minimum, and you just do the work.
Hashtag do the work. All right, Jim, what would you say?
I think that it's really easy to get caught up in all the talk about I only work with my ideal clients, and I only work Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, and I only work on projects that I like, and all of these other things, which when you get to that point in business, it is a miraculously wonderful thing. But you don't start that way. When you're brand new, you can't be picky and choosy. You say yes to everything. And you do everything to build your experience. And because it's what helps you figure out what you don't like, what kinds of clients you don't want to do, what kind you don't want to work with, what kind of projects you don't want to do. We've all had those projects we've said, sure, I can do that. And then we're like, I don't know how to do that. And you figure it out, and then you think, I never want to do that again. So, first, when you're first starting off, you say yes to everything, and if that means you pull all-nighters to meet your deadlines, or you work on the weekends, or you work like Brian said, that's what you do to get it done, because you're in the learning phase. The other thing I would say is to surround yourself with other people that are in your industry that you can learn from, that you can talk to. And the third, I would say, the majority of people drastically undervalue your own expertise, because whatever you're choosing to do, you're probably choosing to do it because it comes naturally to you, or it's easier to you, or it's a talent that you have, which means other people don't have that talent, and you undervalue it because it's probably been something that's kind of come easy to you your whole life. So you charge less than what you should be charging just because we tend to undervalue ourselves. So most people can get away with charging a little bit more than what they're charging, doing the exact same work, simply because you forget that other people, it doesn't come easy to them. They can't do it. They don't know how to write code. They can't open Photoshop. Their stuff doesn't look very good, whatever it is. So if you're charging $50 an hour, bump it to $75. $25 an hour difference sounds like a lot, but to a client, it's not that much. And you do have to remember that you have skill that they don't, even if you're just starting out. Brian at one point said, I was shopping or trying on clothes, or we were going somewhere, and he's like, look, there's always going to be somebody fatter than you, and there's always going to be somebody skinnier than you, so get over yourself, right? And I look at that, and it's the same thing when it comes to your work. There are always going to be people that are better than you. If there is nobody that is better than you, then you need to find some new people to be around. There are always going to be people that are better. But at the same time, there are always going to be people that know less, that are worse than you, that know less than you, that have no idea what they're doing. So no matter what level you're at, there's always things that other people can learn from you. And you just need to look at valuing that and then surrounding yourself with people that can help be your champion and help you learn.
Fantastic advice there. I appreciate that. And yes, that's part of why I champion WordCamp so much, is because you can, or even speaking at local meetups, because regardless of whether you just started, published your first post, there's somebody in the room that hadn't published a post yet, and you now know more than they do. So there's always something to pass on. And yeah, great point. If you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find a new room to go sit in. Okay, well, thank you guys for that, and thank you for taking an hour, because I know you didn't plan this into your vacation schedule last December to spend this hour with me, but I appreciate it nonetheless. I didn't properly introduce you guys even at the beginning of the show, but where can people find you online, or follow up with you and say hello?
We are at bourncreative.com. No E. It's not like the movies. It's B-O-U-R-N, Bourn Creative. And then we both pretty much live on Twitter and Instagram. And I think we're Brian Bourn and Jennifer Bourn on Twitter, and something similar on Instagram. We did kind of are on Facebook, but kind of hate it. So there's that. Don't send Brian a friend request. He won't accept.
My name is Brian Bourn, and I don't use Facebook or starter themes. All right, guys. Well, you are awesome. I can't wait to see you guys next month in Cabo. And until
we're looking forward to it.
Can't wait.
Have a good one.
See ya.